In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a look here at multiple major cold fronts that are going to be rolling through as we move into a rather volatile pattern. It's going to be super interesting all over the place. But I do think that we are overall changing the pattern that we have been in. We have been in a mostly warmer pattern with some cooldowns, and we're moving towards something that looks a little bit more 50-50. And it does look like, based on long-range guidance that we're not going to get into today, but over the coming days I am going to talk about it. In the long range, it does look like we're going to be moving in a colder direction. So we're going to be, again, talking more about that later on. Before we really get into things, be sure to check out our updated winter forecast that we uploaded just yesterday, because there is some pretty big changes for that as well. You can check that out in the pinned comment, the top right corner of your screen. And I'll even throw it in the description for you guys to check out as well. So let's just dive into things. And as we move towards kind of like later this evening, we can see some interesting things ongoing. A pretty strong low there over south central Canada. A little bit of what looks like maybe a cold front trying to get going. Some precipitation there in the Midwest ongoing. And there is clearly a warm front out ahead. So I see the structure of this storm, something like this. We do have some precipitation in the northwest as well. This is both in the forms of rainfall and snowfall, and it is a rather warm day for more inland eastern areas, but it is cooler for the eastern seaboard, as we have now seen this backdoor cold front roll through, which is basically where cold air is traveling down the east coast from the northeast down southwestward, which is really odd, and that's why it's called a backdoor cold front. Typically, they're going to come from more of the west, northwest, into the east. So it's an unusual area to come from. Looking at Saturday on the October 18th, I don't know why I added the in there. But as you can see, we do have plenty of precipitation now ongoing, a little bit of a secondary low here. And overall, there's some activity ongoing for the south central states up into the Great Lakes. And there's a ridge building over the west. This is the overall pattern that we're seeing. So this colder air is trying to dive into this area and advance eastward. Meanwhile, we have warmth building for the west coast, and this is leading towards a lot of instability for these areas kind of caught up in between there. Looking at Sunday here on October 19th, we do see a stronger low now developing over the Great Lakes, kind of in between the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes, which is an area that we watch very closely here. Typically, cooler air follows, and we can see a very clear cold front, warm front dynamic ongoing with this one. So expect some warmer, milder air on the east coast before this cold front arrives and rolls through these areas where we see dipping in these red lines. So mostly these areas here are quite cold compared to normal. The northwest is also experiencing quite a bit of storminess up there. Snowfall for the higher elevations, rainfall for the lower. This has just been a really, really active fall time for them so far. And they do expect typically a lot of activity, but I feel like it's just been a little bit more than what's standard. As we take a look at Monday, here on the 20th, we can see this cold front passes through rather quickly. We do have a weaker low up here in upstate New York, think kind of to the north of the Adirondacks, this cold front right here. So a bit cooler than what it was, but we can see there's an even larger trough kind of looming behind all of this that maybe wants to take things a notch further. Looking at the west, we do see an overall milder pattern kind of persisting here, which is what's going to allow for more frequent cooldowns to move into the central eastern area. This is kind of what we've been waiting for to set up. And we could see this is a much more healthy, much more legitimate trough happening here by Tuesday, the 21st. Ridge in the west, trough in the central eastern states here, really, really pouring into these areas. We do have a stronger low over the Great Lakes again, just another example of that characteristic that oftentimes encourages this type of pattern. Again, milder over the west still. So now we've seen 2 cooldowns within 5 days of now, from the time I'm recording this video, because of that milder look out west. It's really, really critical. Wednesday the 22nd, this low is more so, again, over the kind of northern New England area, a little further east than that previous one, and a cold front is offshore once again. Some of these Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast areas are still seeing precipitation due to it by Wednesday the 22nd. By Thursday the 23rd, we can see it's still cooler in the east, but it is lifting off overall. And that's kind of the theme here. By Friday, same thing. Northwest sees some activity. Also the south central states, but it's relatively dry. The coolest area is the eastern seaboard, where we have, again, another backdoor cold air look, as a lot of these more interior areas are quite a bit warmer. Moving on towards Saturday the 25th, not a whole lot has changed. Northwest, south central seeing a majority of the activity. Sunday the 26th, though, we start to see a ton of storminess. We actually have a 975 millibar low pressure center being kind of shown up on this model, impacting the northwest there. Really, really interesting and really impactful. Snowfall for the Cascades, Sierra Nevada, and Rockies. Rainfall for pretty much everywhere else. This could disrupt this short-term pattern that we've seen with cooler air in the west, and sure enough, we see that here. The impact of this is a stronger low over the central states, a cold front bowing out there, but a rather intense and very large warm front to the north, which is allowing for much warmer, much milder air to really try to take over for the eastern states, while we have really rich cold air and snowiness infiltrating the mountainous west. Now, this cold front, just this dynamic here, keep in mind this is beyond 10 days out, so we're going to want to take this with a grain of salt, especially this is like really, really unique and crazy features happening here. But this look would harbor severe weather, in my opinion, from Oklahoma to Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, even Minnesota and North Dakota. I know it's really late in the year for those northern areas, but this is a really strong flow of warm, humid air. This would be very unseasonably warm, and the cooler air behind this is quite severe. So the contrast in here is really strong, and that typically leads to more potent thunderstorms and severe weather, perhaps. And that's a multi-day event, as we see by Wednesday the 29th. It's just advanced further eastward here. Look at that feature. This is really stunning. Definitely seeing thunderstorms and potentially severe weather along that by this point. And by the time we're reaching towards the end of the model run, that eventually moves out through the east. We see another trough in the west, and we have a pretty quiet pattern to end things off here, but this is 15 days out, so take it with a grain of salt. Looking at the total precipitation, we can see that northwest corner is really, really raking in the precipitation. We can also see a lot of these more interior eastern states and more eastern central states. But for the eastern seaboard, up until you get towards the northeast, this is a little bit lackluster. So let's look at the overall anomalies. And again, northwest, midwest, and kind of like Great Lakes area is going to be the two hot spots for precipitation. A little drier along this eastern seaboard area for the most part, and then also for some of these western portions of the plains, as well as the eastern portions of the Rockies. Looking at the total snowfall on this European model, we could see that a lot of the mountainous west is going to get maybe a foot, 2 feet, maybe more for some of these very, very high elevation areas. So we're going to continue to see accumulating snowfall out there in the west. We've already seen a lot, and we're going to see more. So this is just really, really severe for this fall time. It's just been really crazy. The temperatures on the European model here, as you can see, right now there's a trough in the east, trough in the west. This is a much more traditional trough with a ridge out to the east of it, but then we get this kind of like backdoor cold front look where, again, this cooler air is moving from the northeast down southwest, down the east coast. This one is a lot more traditional, just kind of moving straight down the western seaboard, and then this ridge is just caught up in between. So that's why it's so unseasonably warm in the central states. A lot of times we will see the opposite of this, where there's a large ridge in the west, trough in the central states, and ridge along the east again. But we're seeing quite the opposite here. Looking forward, we do warm back up in the eastern seaboard area by this weekend, Saturday into Sunday especially, so just a couple of days from now, obviously. We do get another cold front move through for early next week, Sunday and Monday there. And then we get an even stronger one for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's kind of coming to an end. And that's when we return to this cooler pattern out west. Oftentimes you see this effect when we see that west coast area warm or cold compared to normal, better yet. We see warmth across the central and eastern states as a result. And as you can see, we're moving towards something, it looks like, after that kind of 25th time frame as well. But we don't really get it to come together here on this model run because we stay cold along the west coast. Of course, there's plenty of time for this to change, but we have to be open to this being a possibility. The GFS model is going to be quite a bit different. We see the same things in the short range. There's cooldown number 1. Here's number 2. Then we kind of see that linger a little longer here, Sunday the 26th, Monday the 27th. And then we warm up briefly before we get another cooldown here, cooldown number 3, around the 30th. And then it looks like an even bigger one is moving in for early November. So both of these models have frequent cold fronts, kind of becoming more and more potent compared to what's normal for this time of year. The GFS is more significant with this than the European model is, but obviously time will tell what ends up happening, and we're going to track it really, really closely with you guys. So be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.